Welcome in, everyone, to an emergency Bruins Tape to Tape podcast episode. I'm your host this afternoon, Caroline with a K. And let's cut to the chase because this Boston Bruins team is an absolute disgrace. And so what better way to welcome back my fantastic co-host, Maria. Hey, Maria, how you feeling?
I came back from Italy for this shit. Today, Sunday, April 26th, has to be one of the worst and most disgusting and embarrassing playoff losses in recent Boston Bruins history. Never mind the fact that since 2019, you have virtually sucked eggs at home during the playoffs. And here we find ourselves with a relatively new core because we flushed out the core from all of those previous playoff heartbreaks, and we find ourselves in a similar situation. You show up for an afternoon playoff game or any playoff game and start in the manner in which you did in the first period, looking unprepared, lost, lack of focus, disengagement, and disinterest in playing. It is deplorable, absolutely deplorable. And the fact that Jeremy Swayman ultimately ended up pulling himself and skates over to his bench and gives the business to his teammates on the bench. Deservedly so. Everybody who listens to this podcast knows that I'm not a Swayman fangirl. But in this instance, he has every right to rip the heads off of every single player, including his coach, who stands there with his goddamn hands in his pocket. What are you waiting for? To me, there was no good reason to have Jeremy Swayman come back out and start the second period of that game when you're already down 4-0.
I got to tell you, Maria, look, I'm not proud to admit this, but I feel like this was an exception. You know, I don't quit on this team. You know, I don't quit on this pod. I sit and I watch and I sit through as close to 82 of those games as I possibly can. You know, I take one for the team and I watch them no matter what. It's a gorgeous day. It was not supposed to be a gorgeous day outside. I sit down to watch this
I
game
could have been
feeling
playing
good.
golf, which is what the
Feeling
Bruins will be doing very soon if they don't get their heads out of their asses.
I didn't even make it through the first period. Buffalo scored 4 goals. They had 8 shots on goal, but Boston had 1 shot on goal. And I said to everyone in the Discord, online, if the Boston Bruins are going to try to waste my time and disrespect the 17,000 fans in TD Garden, I'm sorry, I'm not going to allow that. And I left,
Beautiful in
went
Boston.
and spent the
Beautiful
day outside.
day in Boston, right? Kids in the building, an afternoon game. The building was loud to start the game. The fans were ready to go. The fans were ready to go. The problem was the team was not ready to go.
You knew immediately, as soon as the very first kind of crashing to the net by Buffalo on Jeremy Swayman, where the net got knocked off its moorings and there were bodies all over the place. In that moment, I knew, oh boy, that's the kind of game we're going to have. And I have to say, and I mentioned this a little bit on the pod last week, we've talked before in the past about, okay, you can see the youth and inexperience when you have teams that are new to the playoffs, right? And we saw a little bit of that from the Buffalo Sabres when they got started in the beginning of this series. They were excited because they'd never been pretty much in a very long time. And Boston was the team that was measured and controlled and experienced, and they played that way for the first 2 games. However, of all of the people on the Bruins staff that showed me their incredible lack of experience, Marco Sturm was the biggest offender. And I thought to myself in game one, okay, I will allow it. That's his first time as an NHL head coach. He's been a player, but he's never been a head coach in a playoff game. Game one, mistakes can be made. I will allow it. I will allow it. How else are you supposed to learn, right? In game two, when Jeremy Swayman had to be the one to call a timeout.
Yep.
After the game before, when Marco Sturm was explicitly asked by the media, hey, should you have called a timeout when you started to lose control of the game? And his answer being, I didn't even think of it. Okay, maybe you were just saying that because you didn't want to publicly admit that you made a mistake. Okay, I can understand that. I get it. But then he showed me in game two, the fact that he did not call the timeout, that Jeremy Swayman had to call the timeout, made me think his comments about not even thinking about doing it were actually real. That he literally did not even think for a second to call a timeout. And I got to tell you, because again, I didn't see this, and now I feel like I got to go watch part of this shit show atrocity of a hockey game. The fact that Jeremy Swayman was the one who had to go to the bench and lace into everyone. What is the job of a coach?
He's at the bench. There's clear video of him looking over at the bench like, are you going to take me out of this fucking game? Excuse my language. Are you going to take me out of this goddamn game? Like, what are we waiting for here? Now, Marco, right? There's plenty of blame pie to go around.
But the buck stops with the coach.
You are absolutely correct. And I'm not taking anything away from the Buffalo Sabres because whatever they figured out, they have figured out. And this team is in no way, shape, or form intimidated by the Boston Bruins. The Bruins have had nothing but trouble trying to figure out how to maintain and keep up with Buffalo's speed and their relentless forecheck. Mm-hmm. Stop me if you've heard this before, but this has been a proverbial problem throughout the season for the Bruins. Mm-hmm. And you also have Lindy Ruff, who is an experienced NHL coach. I knew this series was not going to be a cakewalk for the Boston Bruins. What I didn't see coming is this team laying down like dogs in the first period. Now, they showed some life in the second period. Missed an open net, hit 2 posts. Same old song and dance. Same old song and dance with this team.
Can't finish.
But listen, you don't burn the tape for this. You make those guys sit and watch this until they freaking throw up, as far as I'm concerned. Because we as fans and the people that were in that building that paid God only knows how much money to sit there and watch this game, you're going to sit there and watch this shit too. And you're going to swallow the shit sandwich that you put out there today.
Yeah. And I would also like to point out the fact that we are recording this right now and that game is not even actually over.
No, it's not even actually over. And I'm not sure what's going on here, but Nikita Zadorov, I think, might have taken some liberties here and they're trying to figure out what the penalties are. Somebody's got a 5-minute power play. Oh, Buffalo. So it's likely because of Nikita Zadorov kind of throwing a sucker punch at someone. So there we have it.
I can barely even articulate the degree of frustration because it's not like the solution was complex or complicated or that one team is inherently more talented than the other. We posted on Friday as a wraparound post on our Substack. These are the keys to the game, right? You got to continue to win the faceoffs. Great. Guess what? As of right now, Boston has an almost 65% faceoff win. Excellent. That's what we love to see. Penalty minutes. They have fewer than Buffalo. Great. Hits 40-22 in favor of the Bruins. Awesome. Block shots 11-15. Great. Okay. The giveaways relatively matched. I mean, not awesome.
Bruins
16 to
penalty kill
13.
has been decent because
Okay. The
Buffalo's power
takeaway.
play is just as atrocious as ours is.
Takeaways exactly the same, pretty much 4-3. Like, so what is happening? What is not being translated that then the offense is just not doing anything at the like, because the biggest indicator that the offense is just not showing up is the fact that it took 3 periods once again to get to 20 shots on goal to Buffalo's 34. That is unacceptable. The fact that I turned this game back on, like at the start of the third, and there was still only 8 shots on goal. 8! 8! 8 shots on goal. The Boston Bruins, 8 shots on goal. What is that garbage? What is that? What what? I don't understand. I don't understand. It's not a talent issue. What's happening? Did they just stop playing? Have they lost the mental game already?
I
Why would I
I
want to watch
I'm
this
not
garbage?
no one wants to watch this garbage. This
They should be
garbage.
embarrassed.
What is very troubling to me is the fact that you got off to such a poor start at home. They were not ready to play. They were not engaged. You are at home. It is the effing Stanley Cup playoffs. You are down 2-1, and you're on home ice, and you stand around and look at each other like, no, you take it, man. No, you take it, man. No, I don't want it. You take it. And you leave your goalie out there hanging by his thumbs.
If I'm Jeremy Swayman, I'm livid. I am giving the entire team the tongue lashing of a lifetime, because to abandon your goaltender in the way that they have, and it's not just this game, and it's not just this particular situation, it's you're abandoning your goaltender when you don't back check like your life depends on it,
Yep.
because you are just deciding that, well, he's probably got it. No, you one of the things that I love culturally about this game that I think no other sport has is the relationship of a team and their goaltender. And your job, and I can attest to this, that the messaging from age 8 and up in youth hockey is you do whatever you can to protect your goaltender. And that doesn't just mean clearing the crease or showing up, and pushing some bodies around if people are getting too close up in your goalie's business. It means also not leaving your goalie high and dry. It means back checking like you've got your pants are full of bees. Okay? It's putting in the effort to show your goaltender, I respect you and I don't want you to have to do this alone. And I have told my kid this: when games get out of hand like this and your goalie is getting peppered with a million shots, and in spite of all of those shots, it may seem like a ton of goals have been scored, which they have. That only happens when the 5 players in front of you completely fail. That is a result of 5 players in front failing your goaltender and abandoning them because they didn't do their job. And it's not just the defense, it is the forwards as well, because they all have to back check to get back there. When the other team has the puck, everyone is a defenseman in that moment. I don't know how much more clear the job could be.
The game is now mercifully over. Sean Corrali scored with a little under 40 seconds left in the game to make it 6-1. The series is not over yet. Being down 3-1 is not ideal, but I don't even know how you regroup from this. I don't even care to hear what any of them have to say post game. I'm not going to listen. I don't care. You all sucked today, starting with the coach and all the way down through the roster.
Mm-hmm.
And this has nothing to do with Marco Sturm making a couple of lineup changes. Those lineup changes were inconsequential. James Higgins was looking like a deer in the headlights in game 3. He needed to take a seat. Okay, he needed to take a seat. And Henry Jokiharju is who he is. He is who he is. Okay, making those changes in the lineup had nothing to do with the fact that your leaders and your core have basically been no-shows for these games. Like they need to show up and they need to do more. Pasta has got to stop. I don't know if he's injured or if something is tweaked, but he looks like a shell of himself.
Yep. I think I'm not going to disagree, but I am going to say I think that the coaching staff had a greater involvement in the collapse of this team. Granted, you're 100% right. Where is the offense? Where are the top guys? Where's Morgan Geekie? Where's David Pasternak? Where's the second line?
I mean, I don't even know what the stats are for today's game, but the first 3 games, these guys are like all in the minus. Pavel Zacha -4, Pasta -3, Arvidsson's a -3. Although
one goal a game.
I'll give him the benefit. Yeah, Casey Middlestat is a -3. God only knows what Charlie McAvoy's stats are today, because I swear he was on the ice for a good number of the goal sequences that Buffalo scored. And again, it sounds like we're not giving credit to Buffalo. No, Buffalo is playing very, very well. And the momentum turned
all the right things.
Right. The momentum turned for them when they made the change in goal, and then that penalty shot that Arvidsson
missed.
Yep.
But I think also it comes down to game management. Okay, this is where I'm hyperfixating on Sturm, and I hope. Look, I like him. I don't want to see him go anywhere. Like, let's be clear. This is not me saying, okay, this is going to be his head on a plate. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Has made thoughtful and impactful tweaks, both in game and pre-game or post-game, every single matchup. The fact that going into game 3, there were 0 changes, alarm bells immediately for me. 0 changes? Really? You think that game 2 was that good? Really? When they were stopping their play with X number of minutes? You thought that the kid line was doing a great job? Really? And then I also said he needs to make changes, but not changes for change's sake. And I think that sitting Lohrei and Higgins was making a change for change's sake, because it did nothing. What other changes did you make? You didn't make any changes in game. You didn't pull Jeremy Swayman after the first period. Like, the fact that Korpisalo did not come out and start the second, it's mind-blowing. What are you waiting
ludicrous.
for? What are you
ludicrous.
waiting for?
No, I just...
You have nothing to lose right now. You have nothing to lose.
There are some that might say, well, this was, 4 games in a row for Swayman. No. This has nothing to do with that. Swayman was not the problem today. Swayman did not look fatigued. Swayman did not look like he wasn't ready to play. It was everyone else in front of him. The turnovers, the bad decisions, the inability to establish your own forechecking down in Buffalo's end so that you have any sense of sustained offensive pressure. Now, we saw a little bit of push in the second period, but at that point, it's too little, too late. You're already down 4-0.
Yeah. Yep.
And now
you had Benny
have no Victor Arvidsson, who knows what the injury to him is. So that could potentially be an impactful loss for this team.
Yeah.
I am disgusted. Absolutely disgusted by the display of so-called hockey that was presented to us by the Boston Bruins today.
Yeah. I think game 3, you could have chalked it up to not respecting the opponent because we've seen this team pull that crap before. Today, I can't explain. I can't explain that.
There is no explanation.
They're not tired.
Yeah.
They had an extra day off than everybody else. They were not tired. Okay. They were bad. They were bad. Atrociously bad.
I mean, listen to this quote from Marco Sturm. This is from Ty Anderson. This is
Just
after
now,
the game.
post-game?
Sturm asked to explain the letdown. Quote, I can't. If you're a Boston Bruin and playing at home in a playoff game, you should be very excited, very disappointed, end quote. Isn't it your job to ensure that they're fucking ready to go? That they understand the enormity of what's at stake here?
Sounds to me like guys are ready to hit the links.
Just can't understand.
There was never an expectation that we would be here. But 2 things could be true at once. You can be glad because nobody, for the most part, was expecting them to be in this position back in the playoffs. But you can also be disgusted with the product that they have presented and be disappointed and disgusted and ashamed at what you've seen. At this point, and again, I am the optimistic one. I'm the one who's like, well, there's always a bright side.
I don't
want to watch. I don't want to see anymore. I've seen enough. We're done. I've seen enough 2 games in a row. I'm going to say the words out loud and I don't want to say them. Enough. End it. Try not to be too embarrassing if you can in Buffalo. Enough. Just call it.
I had said at one point in our Discord in the first period, the next guy who commits a turnover in our own end needs to have his ass stapled to the bench. Okay? Staple his sorry ass to the bench.
But
I don't care if it's Pasta or Charlie McAvoy or Hampus Lindholm, who, by the way, has sucked balls in this series. Absolutely sucked balls in this series.
But that's my point about the in-game mismanagement. To this game, like I said, you have nothing to lose. So use this game to make a point with your players. Hold them accountable. Staple their butts to the bench and say, you don't get to play now for a little bit because you can't do that. You can't do that. But then again, he didn't pull Jeremy Swayman.
No.
Forever.
And when your fourth line has consistently been your best line in a playoff series, that's a little bit of a problem.
Yeah.
Give them credit for working their asses off, but they're not the guys. They're not the guys that are going to be taking you or should be taking you to the promised land in terms of keeping you in a game, putting the puck in the net. They're not typically not part of your power play units or your penalty kill units. Like, today was an epic fucking disaster. Can you recover from this? I don't know. I honestly don't know because I don't know how fragile the leadership core in that group is at this point. You've got a goalie who's pissed off, who's part of your new core. Okay. You've got Charlie McAvoy, who seems to be do-do, 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 like,
Finally had a good hit today.
you got Pasta, who looks
Around.
like a lost soul out there and can't seemingly keep the puck on the end of his stick for any significant period of time. And a Hampus Lindholm, who looks like a shell of himself right now and isn't capable of making a decent decision when he needs to, when he has the puck. So I'm at a loss.
The series heads back to Buffalo. When is that? What's today? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday? Tuesday. So it could all be over by then. But until then, make sure you like and subscribe. If you want to hear more from us, give us a rating and review so that other Boston Bruins fans can find us. You can follow us on all of our socials at Tape to Tape MK, and then on our Substack at tapetotapemk.substack.com. We'll have a regular episode this week, but I don't know what we're going to talk about. Maybe we'll learn some new things. But until then, any final thoughts, Maria?
I can't even say go bees. I don't even know what to say to these players and fans. They live to fight another day, I think is about as positive a spin as I can give you on this. And here's the other positive. When, during the regular season, this team has been subjected to embarrassing and gut-wrenching losses, as they did today, they do seem to have the ability to bounce back. We'll see on Tuesday.
All I'm asking for is that they give a crap. But until then, go bees.